Hi, everyone. Welcome to the PrecisCa GU Tumor Board. My name is Brian Reaney. I'm a GU medical oncologist at Vanderbilt, and I'm happy to be joined today by a prestigious panel of experts from around the country to discuss several cases. I'm going to go around and have everyone introduce themselves before we get started with our first case, and I will start with Dr. Siegel.
Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Siegel. I'm a genitourinary radiologist in the abdominal imaging section at Washington University in St. Louis.
Thank you. Dr. Shaw?
I'm Chirag Shah. I'm a radiation oncologist at the Taussig Cancer Institute at the Cleveland Clinic.
Thank you. Dr. Abel?
Yes, thank you for having me. My name is Jason Abel. I'm a urologic oncologist, a surgeon at the University of Wisconsin.
And thank you. And Dr. Jakaki?
Hi, everybody. I'm Alexandra Drakaki. I'm a GU medical oncologist at UCLA. Happy to join you today.
Thank you all for being here. So we have several cases across the spectrum of GU cancer to discuss today. And we'll start off, and I'll sort of describe the case and the question, and then we'll go through some specifics of the case. And then I'll come back to all of you for an opinion, depending on what the specifics of the case are. This is a 79-year-old African-American with recurrent suspected oligometastatic prostate cancer, who has progression after radical prostatectomy and lymph node dissection and 13 years of systemic anti-androgen therapy. So the question is around, should palliative or definitive radiation be considered for oligometastatic disease? And we've covered this before, but we'll do it again in this case. Would a PSMA scan help to determine if radiation is appropriate? And is there a role for enza or abi in this case? So it looks like we're going to get everybody involved in this one. Patient presents with a rising PSA at the time of diagnosis, now with new left lower back pain, though improved and not requiring pain medicines, ECOG performance status of 1, has a medical history of hypertension, 10 pack year smoking history, nothing else in terms of social history or family history. Going back in 2003, the patient had a slowly rising PSA, ultimately got a prostate biopsy, which showed a Gleason 3+4 adenocarcinoma, gets a radical prostatectomy and lymph node dissection, has a grade group 4 Gleason 3+5. Not sure I've seen it reported that way, but anyway, Gleason 8, prostate cancer T2N1 with 2 of 6 left pelvic nodes involved, extensive perineural and lymphatic invasion, but margins negative. PSA naders at 0.5, which is decent but not undetectable, and then unfortunately lost to follow-up. Shows up 5 years later in 2008 with a PSA of 239 and is put on hormone therapy, presumably with metastatic disease. We don't have the details of imaging at that time. It's very responsive and his PSA becomes undetectable. He is on that for 4 years, switched to Leuprolide because of a slow rise in PSA, which the patient is on until present day. 2014, then he gets bicalutamide added due to a rising PSA. PSA goes down again. His imaging is negative at this time, so he may have been negative throughout this time. 2 years later, his PSA rises. Now abiraterone and prednisone are available, so those are added to his regimen. He naders, but not quite as low as before. He only goes to 3.3. And then just early this year, his PSA slowly rises again to 17. He gets imaging, which we're going to see on the next couple slides. And he gets conventional imaging with a CT scan of chest, abdomen, pelvis, and an MRI of his lumbar spine. And we'll see that he has some concerning metastatic disease, concerning areas for metastatic disease on imaging. And so Dr. Siegel, I'll ask you to take us, we have an MRI here and then a bone scan on the next one that I'll have you take us through. If you could start with this scan, please.
So what we have here are two sagittal T2 weighted views, and there's a little bit of motion, but you can see a irregular mass in the sacrum. And when you look at the patient's back, there's a lot of body wall edema. So you wonder if maybe the patient wasn't feeling well, why there was a little bit of motion during this exam. But you can make out, especially on the image on the right, a fairly sizable right sacral mass that's bright on T2.
And then let me just take it to the bone scan.
And here we can see we have images from a bone scan, and we can see a very focal area of uptake in the right sacrum corresponding to the lesion we saw in the MR. And then there's a few other small areas of uptake that are probably like in the degenerative in the right knee, and then there's a little bit of just radiotracer below the bladder, which I don't think is related to metastatic disease.
So let's go to our questions for this patient. So a very long course of hormonally responsive prostate cancer now looks like with some limited metastatic disease. And so let's put aside the question of more imaging for now. And Dr. Shah, how would you approach this patient in terms of, I guess, palliative or definitive radiation? I don't remember if this patient has pain in this area, but what would be your approach? Let's put aside the question of more imaging for a second.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he was symptomatic. So no matter what, I would offer him radiation. And given the imaging we have so far, this looks to be the only area that we can see on imaging, whether that be MRI as well as bone scans. So even if there wasn't other imaging, I would offer this patient radiation. And given that this is the only area that seems to be kind of readily available on imaging, I would consider a more SBRT approach. There are certain couple different regimens you can use. I tend to favor the NRG regimen, which is 10 gray times 3, since it's being studied prospectively. But if you look at, for example, the PSMA directed study, I think theirs was an average of 35 gray and 5 fractions. So anywhere between 3 and 5 fractions of radiation is what I would consider, but SBRT is what I would use.
Okay. And then let me go to Dr. Jakaki about more imaging in this case. So you have access to PSMA-PET at UCLA. We have one known site of disease. Are you going to use PSMA-PET in this circumstance? And if so, how?
So the answer is yes. And actually, we're having a trial that is just opening. And this is the exact patient population we're looking at. So patients who received Lupron, abiraterone, and they're progressing, where we'll be randomized to enzalutamide alone, plus minus PSMA-directed therapy with enzalutamide, and allowed to have radiation at the areas of oligometastatic disease. So I'm just putting a patient on this trial. Outside of the trial, I will do PSMA to help the radiation oncologist to radiate the areas that we can see, and I will change the systemic therapy as well.
So change it. Let's get back to change of systemic therapy. So Dr. Shah, let me go back to you. So you're going to radiate the sacral lesion because it's obvious and it's painful and it's at least solitary by conventional imaging. So you're going to give it ablative doses. This is the same question I asked you before, but I'll ask it again because I think it's a really important one. You do a PSMA and there's some faint uptake in a couple ribs, or there's a couple other spots that are believably Mets. Are you just going to go ahead and radiate those at the same time or not?
It's a good question. It's a tough question. I mean, I think this is the hardest thing in these situations that I have talking to patients is the worst thing as a radiation oncologist I can do is give someone high dose ablative therapy, and at their next scan, they have Mets everywhere. I've not been good steward of care. I've not used resources and not helped the patient. So, I would really bring this patient to our tumor board, see how confident we are in those areas. For example, in the ribs, I'll often get plain films because sometimes things that show up on different imaging, maybe from trauma or something else like that. If there's pretty good suspicion that those are metastatic foci and, we're getting past the 1, 2, even 3 range, then I would probably not give ablative therapy to all of them. And I'd just do palliation to this one area. But if we're comfortable or reasonably comfortable that it's just that one area or just 1 or 2 areas, then I would consider ablative to those sites.
So I think we can say there's probably a growing practice, I don't know if I'd want to use the word consensus, around focal radiation to limited metastatic prostate cancer. I think we would agree with that. We might have different definitions of limited. We might have different definitions of what scan we would get or have access to, frankly, to define limited. In terms of radiating the primary, I mean, this patient already had that therapy, but I think that to me is a bigger question. It's a bigger question about the role of definitive therapy of the primary in the face of metastatic disease. I mean, we've been doing that in kidney cancer for 30 years, and we still don't know if it's a good idea, by the way. So I hope it's smoother journey in prostate cancer. But yeah, again, what defines limited and ablative versus non-ablative? It's very much a moving target. And as you said before, I hope we do the rigorous studies to show, because just to do it in everybody, I'm sure, is not the right answer. And so I think we have a lot of work to do in this regard. And I think PSMA-PET will help because to my knowledge, it's such a reliable test. I mean, Oxymin PET, I know we struggle a lot with interpreting and we believe it? And but my understanding is, and Dr. Siegel can correct me if I'm wrong, PSMA-PET is a really good test. It's a really sensitive and specific test. Is that accurate?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
sensitive, it's specific, and it's better. And in this patient, we have a lot of upgrades from a bone scan to an FTG PET to a FACBC PET to a PMSA PET. I mean, there's a lot of room for growth in terms of our accuracy.
Yeah, this patient's lived long enough, thank God, that he's sort of made it through generations of imaging. And then Dr. Dricacchi, well, this is our last case, but I'll end one question with you, is the role for Abby or Enza in this case. I think you said you would change systemic therapy, and I don't remember if you said what you would change to.
So this is when, again, I will consider their V7 mutation status. So those who do have mutation, I prefer to offer chemotherapy at the time as the next treatment option. Those who don't will do Enza. The trial we're running has enzalutamide as the next option. But just to continue the relation with the surgeons, when we do PSMA and the diseases in the nodes, we can send them back to the surgeons to do resection of the nodes. So I had a couple of cases actually that the metastasis was only in the abdomen without doing anything in systemic therapy aspect, but just by doing resection of the oligo recurrent node disease, we got some time. And I don't know if Dr. Abel, you're doing that in your practice. Have you had cases like this? But I found, again, a nice reason to use PSMA.
Yeah, I think we're going to probably continue to evolve on that, and maybe lymph node dissection, especially in prostate cancer, really is it's not, the extent of it is really, really variable among surgeons, way more than with urothelial cancer. So some people do a little, some people do a lot, some people don't do it at all for index prostate cancer cases. And I think the PSMA-PET will continue to point out to us when there are patients that are failing just in the lymph nodes, and that may be an opportunity to study whether or not that removing them will benefit patients in the future.
And the only other thing I'd add, I totally agree, is, radium might also have a role in this patient with bone-only disease. I really like that drug. I use it a lot. I mean, I think it's, minimal toxicity, obviously, bone-directed. So a lot of the patients we talked about today seem to have nodal and visceral and other disease, but I would sort of just throw that in as another option for this patient. So just to summarize, I think definitely some sort of definitive radiation for this sacral MET. I think the consensus was that if you could get other PET imaging, especially PSMA, that may add. I don't think it'll determine if radiation to the sacrum is appropriate, but might impact your approach, your radiation approach to other areas. Again, depending on extent and number and some of the things we talked about, and that there's certainly a role for more hormonal therapy among other systemic treatment options for this patient. So this patient's, again, a great example of somebody who's lived through several eras of prostate cancer treatment and now can benefit from hopefully better treatment and better imaging and better systemic therapies.